Hi there, everyone. It's Mrs. Ashworth, the Lynbrook High School teacher librarian, and I am here today because you have been given a lesson where you are required to do a search for research information on the open web. So let's get started. When you research, it is your job to make sure that you use quality sources. Research sources fall into two rough categories: vetted or not vetted. Most library sources are considered vetted because they come from trusted academic presses or database content providers. Open web sources are not vetted. When you're given an assignment where your teacher lets you do a Google search on the open web, you're going to need to learn how to filter out the content. The way you do this yourself is by conducting a test of each site. You critically analyze the content you find through the lenses of currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. If a site checks out with the CRAP test, you've vetted an open web source for research. Let's review these criteria one at a time. Currency relates to three areas. When was the website published or updated? What new events could affect the accuracy of the content if the website was published a while ago? And do I need to be overly concerned about date? You may answer no to this last question if you're doing research on mythology or a biography of an author, but even biographers and historians find new information from time to time. So please don't make do with an old website just because it shows up first on your search results. Now, for each of these criteria, I'm going to show you two sites to give an example of good or bad. So we're going to start with the United Nations site. All right, so here I am on one of the United Nations pages on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, 30 Years Informing Global Climate Action. And down below you have a blog post by Justine Sullivan that was posted on March 13th, 2018, so you can see the exact date. And then you see an editor's note saying that the post was updated in 2019. So there's clickable links, and then you go through and you can see the actual information, the actual article, and related articles below, and that kind of thing. So one of the things that I do want to point out is that if you do see down at the bottom, oftentimes you are looking for when was this page last updated. If you don't see, like in this article, that there is a date on the actual article, you might want to head down to the bottom and you'll see a copyright date. The copyright date, you need to know, is not the date that the page was last updated. It's just when the content has been maintained. So keep that in mind when you're doing your EasyBib citation creation. Copyright does not mean date last updated. Now let's check out ti.com. So here we have a Smart Growth in United Nations Conspiracy. Notice that it's really text-heavy content, which is an indicator to me that this site has not been viewed or developed for a really long time. This is actually, this ice blue background is kind of redolent of something that was built in the early 2000s or maybe even the 1990s, and you have a mention of 1992 here. Next is relevance. Not only should the content of the website be about your topic, it needs to be written for a high school audience or above, and should cover your topic in depth. A good way to filter for relevance is to ask Google to do a search for websites with specific tails like .gov or .edu. I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. In my Google search field, I can type in my subject, and then if I type site:.edu, that's going to show me any of the sites that are related to education with that tail. So notice that this first one is .edu, the second one is .edu, etc., etc. Another way that you can do the same thing is by using Google's advanced search. So over underneath your search field in Google, click Settings and click Advanced Search. And then when you are here, go down and narrow your search results to .edu. And when you do that and you do an advanced search, then all of the information will be about in that table. Now let's see what these websites have to offer. All right, this is ESA Kids on the Big Bang, and as you can see, it's a kids site. So we have this very short article here, which is not ideal. It's obviously not going into depth. It was last modified on June 2014, which isn't great for the date. And then you have this cute little animation down at the bottom. That's an indicator when you see animations like this that this is for kids and not for students that are serious about getting research information for high school projects. Now the NASA site. So this is the same topic. We're looking at the Big Bang, and if you look at this article, you can see we have lots of information with some blue links to talk about these various different additional items that are listed here. I don't know what that is, but obviously if you click on this, I can get to this to learn more about it. And what's more important, it covers your subject in depth and gives you some recommended articles and some other cool stuff related to that. The third criteria you need to get used to checking for in a website is authority. This is all about having authority to write about a subject in an unbiased, unopinionated, balanced way. An author or organization shows authority by having credentials. An individual might have a degree in the subject matter or might have written a book on the subject. An organization should be well regarded by the internet community, as well as the academic community. You can check this easily by Googling the person or organization, and we're going to do that in a second when we look at these websites. But before we do that, note that the second article is a Huffington Post blog. Whenever you find a source that is a blog post, think critically about whether the person writing the post has the authority to speak on the information, and also about whether the blogger is stating an opinion or bias. So let's head to the first one, Internet Safety 101. And Internet Safety 101 is put together by a corporation called the Enough is Enough nonprofit organization. If we were to be interested in using this, now we can see that it's got all of these sponsors and has a pretty good website. We have an About Us section, a media center with research and resources. So all of this stuff looks good, but we don't know enough about Enough is Enough. And so we'd want to do an internet search before we do that. We really can't rely on what they present about themselves because they could be lying for all we know. Now let's check out the Huffington Post blog. All right, so you see this article. It's by, we have this big ad across the top, but we see it's by Jason Alderman, contributor, who says that he's the senior vice president of DraftKings. And this was written in 2011. So that's obviously a little bit old, and we probably want to find something newer and more relevant to our time. But now we have this article, and maybe the information is good, but we would definitely want to do a risk assessment on this and make sure that we're not just going with something printed by somebody we don't know. All right, I did a Google search for this guy, and I'm seeing some interesting information, but DraftKings is a fantasy sports website. And so to me, that's not going to be the most authoritative person to talk about internet safety for senior citizens. And so I'd probably want to go with another article or somebody else. The fourth criteria is accuracy. How do you know if the content on a website is accurate? If you can answer yes to the following questions, you're good to go. Is there a list of sources, a references section, or a works cited section in the article? Can I access them via links? Are the sources given for images? Does the information fit with the content I've found on other sites? All right, let's check out human cloning site. Off the bat, you can see this is a presentation from Prezi, and it is done by this person, and I have no idea if she is an authority on the topic of human cloning, but I imagine that she's probably a student that's working on a presentation for one of her classes. Now I can go through and I can play it, and I bet Julie has put in a lot of effort into building this out and probably has a nice list of resources, but it is This is a good place to talk about intersections of those criteria in the CRAP test. You need to make sure that this person is an authority on the subject. That person or institution needs to have advanced degrees in the subject area and not just be some random student that is doing a presentation. So keep that in mind if you find a Prezi or if you find a PowerPoint presentation or a Google slide that's been shared across the internet. Your teachers will not view that as authoritative or reliable research information. All right, let's head to Nature. And here we have an older article as well on human stem cells created by cloning. Nature is actually a weekly journal of science, and it is well known as being a really good place to get information. Notice that in here we have this related stories section, but down below, most importantly, we have a nice list of references. And that's what you're really looking for when you're doing your research. Those references are the difference between a good article and a bad one. The final criteria is purpose. You want an educational academic site. You want a site that presents unbiased information that is reliably accurate. However, even on some sites that cover most of the bases, you still might be surprised by how many ads pop up, and you may be asked to pay to view content or pay to support a cause. If a lot of ads pop up and they completely distract you from your article, this is an indicator that the purpose of the content is less about educating you and more about getting you to buy stuff. Let's look at the example sites. The Body Image Health seems to be advertising a book, which it is. The purpose of this specific web page is advertising. However, if you look around on the site, you might be surprised to find good content on one of the other web pages attached to the site. You may be able to find some good resources here, and you may be able to click on, and yes, you can click on Kathy Cater, and you can learn about her, and she's got some good information here. So don't just view this as a dead end if you come across a site that's just an advertisement for something like this. And sometimes you'll come across sites where you are asked to purchase the article that you can view the full, get full access to the article. Please make sure that you do not click on those, that you should check to see if we have those available in the library. And I'll talk more about that in a sec. The second article here is from The Onion. And we have this article that was written about this new homely doll to improve self-image of young girls. You read through the information, and what you find if you're doing your information on body image, you go, wow, none of this information has anything to do with anything that I've previously read on my topic. Well, yes, that's true. And the other thing that you need to remember is that The Onion is actually a joke place. It's not America's finest news source, although I found some really funny articles here. It's fake stuff, okay? Like I said, if you're not sure about a resource, make sure that you ask your librarian. Ask me, you can email me very easily, or you can ask your teacher, of course, and then we have some additional resources linked here. The first is if you are confused about documentation and EasyBib isn't helping you out, make sure that you use the online writing lab through Purdue University. It's a very helpful place to go for any kind of documentation. And then also we have the library research page. Here I am at our library website, and it's kind of taking a little while to load. But notice over here on the left-hand side, we have a lot of different LHS research resources. So these are all the databases that we have linked to, as well as information on how to access these from school and home down below. Now, if you come across an article that you just have to have for your research, like I said, don't try to purchase that online. Make sure that you come here first or ask me about that, and I can try to track down that article for you. Now it's your turn. You've learned the criteria, and it's up to you to collect the quality research sources from the reliable sites that you have tracked down and located because you've applied the criteria to them. Good luck.